Namaskaram. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the second day of 5th National Seminar of Performing and Visual Arts, Samprekshana, the Art of Seeing Art 2022, Harmony Through Art. Today's first topic will be Improvisation and Technique of Chenda Playing by Padmasri Mattannur Shankarankutty Marar. A few words about the artist. Padmasri Mattannur Shankarankutty Marar was born in Mattannur, Kerala. He started practicing Tayambaka along with his father, Shri K. Krishna Marar, who was his first guru. He started practicing Kathakali Chenda under Shri Kalamandalam Chandramannadiyar and Shri Sadanam Vasudevan at Perur Gandhi Seva Sadanam while learning Carnatic music under Shri Talasheri Padmanabha Bhagavata. He then went to practice the Edeka under Shri Patrat Shankara Marar and the Timila under Shri Pallavur Maniyan Marar in 1973. Shri Mattannur Shankarankutty Marar has given many performances in Bharatiya Kathakali Sangam, Vattapalam, performances of Panchavadyam, Melam and Tayambaka under the banner of Mattannur Panchavadya Sangam, both in and out of Kerala since 1973. Among the innumerable awards that have been given, the most notable are Kerala Sangeet Natak Academy Award 1996, Kerala Kalamandalam Award 2004, Padmasri 2009 and Kerala Kalamandalam Kalacharya Puraskaram 2016. May I now invite Padmasri Mattannur Shankarankutty Marar onto the dais to start the morning proceedings. We welcome you, sir.
എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. Today I am going to say in my own language, that is Malayalam. I think everybody can understand Malayalam. இந்த செண்ட வாத்தியம் இது மலையாளம் கிடையாது. இந்த செண்ட வாத்தியம் வேர்ல்டிலே யாருக்காவது ஒரு கலை வேணும்னா ഏറ്റവും ஈஸி செண்ட வாத்தியம். அப்புறம் இந்த டான்ஸு, கதகளி, குச்சிப்புடி, மணிப்புடி அதெல்லாம் ரொம்ப டஃப்பு. ஈஸி ஆகிட்டு எது வேணும்னா அதுக்கு செண்ட வாத்தியம் புரிஞ்சு வச்சுக்கோ. அது என்ன காரணம்னா ஒரே ஒரு இதுதான் கற்றுக்கணும். அதனோட பேர் தக்கிட்ட. 1 2 3 1 2 3 தக்கிட்ட. நெக்ஸ்ட் ஒன் இஸ் நமக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் பிறவிலே இருக்கிற ஒரு விஷயம், அதுதான் தரிகிட. இந்த தக்கிடாவும் தரிகிடாவும் சேர்த்துதான் இந்த உலகம் பூரா சுற்றுதுன்னா. இந்த தக்கடா தரிகிடா தரிகிடா தக்கடா தக்கடா தரிகிடா தரிகிட தக்கடா இந்த மாதிரி அந்த அப்ளாஸ் வந்தாச்சு. இதுதான் தரிகிட. ஆமா, இந்த மலையாளத்தில் சொல்லட்டுமா? மலையாளம் தெரியுமா? இந்த எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியுமா மலையாளம்? Otherwise, I will try to speak English, which is better, please try. I think Malayalam is better for me. Are you agreed? Okay. എൻ്റെ കൂടെ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നവരുടെ പേര്, നടുവിലിരിക്കുന്നത് കേരള കലാമണ്ഡലത്തിൽ ചെണ്ട വിഭാഗത്തിൽ ജോലി ചെയ്ത് കേരള കലാമണ്ഡലം പ്രിൻസിപ്പാളായിട്ട് റിട്ടയർ ചെയ്ത ഉണ്ണികൃഷ്ണൻ. തൊട്ട് റൈറ്റ് സൈഡിലിരിക്കുന്നത് കണ്ടാൽ തന്നെ മനസ്സിലാക്കണം, കാരണം എൻ്റെ മൂത്ത മകനാണ്. മട്ടന്നൂർ ശ്രീകാന്ത്, പേര് മട്ടന്നൂർ ശ്രീകാന്ത്. ഉടനെ ഇടത്ത് ഭാഗത്തിരിക്കുന്നത് അതും കണ്ടാൽ മനസ്സിലാവും, അതും എന്നോട് പയ്യൻ മട്ടന്നൂർ ശ്രീരാജ്. ഇവരുടെ രണ്ടു പേരുടെയും ഗുരുനാഥൻ കൂടിയാണ് കലാമണ്ഡലം ഉണ്ണികൃഷ്ണൻ. അവർ മൂന്ന് പേരും ചെണ്ട ഇടന്തലയാണ് വായിക്കുന്നത്. ചെണ്ടയ്ക്ക് രണ്ട് ഭാഗമുണ്ട്. ദേവവാദ്യം, ചെണ്ടയ്ക്ക് സാധാരണ ഇത് അസുരവാദ്യം എന്ന് പറയാറുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ ഞാൻ ഒരിക്കലും അത് സമ്മതിക്കാറില്ല. മൃദംഗത്തിൽ മദ്ദളം വായിക്കുന്ന മാതിരിയില്ല, മദ്ദളം കൊട്ടുന്ന മാതിരി കൊട്ടിയാൽ അത് അസുരവാദ്യമാണ്. മൃദംഗത്തിന് അതിൻ്റെ ശബ്ദം തന്നെ മൃദുവായതാണ്. സുന്ദരമായ രീതിയിൽ കൃത്യമായി കച്ചേരിക്ക് പക്കവാദ്യമായിട്ട് മാറിയിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സാധനമാണ് മൃദംഗം. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു വാദ്യമാണ്. ആ മൃദംഗത്തിൽ മദ്ദളം കൊട്ടുന്ന മാതിരി കൊട്ടിയാൽ അതും അസുരവാദ്യമാണ്. ചെണ്ടയ്ക്ക് രണ്ട് ഭാഗം, ഒന്ന് വലന്തല, അത് ദേവവാദ്യം, ഇടന്തല അത് ഞാൻ പറയില്ല അസുരവാദ്യം, ഞാൻ രണ്ടും ദേവവാദ്യം എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. എങ്കിലും നിങ്ങൾ എഴുതുമ്പോൾ രണ്ട് ഭാഗമുണ്ട്. ഏതാണ് രണ്ട് ഭാഗം ചോദിച്ചാൽ ഒന്ന് വലന്തല. ഇവിടെ ആ വലന്തലയിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നത് വെള്ളിനൈ രാംകുമാർ. വലന്തലയിൽ ചെമ്പട താളം, കേരളീയ താളപദ്ധതി പ്രകാരം ചെമ്പട താളം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ 8 അക്ഷരമുള്ള താളം. കർണാടക സംഗീതത്തിൽ ആദി താളം എന്ന് പറയാം. എനിക്ക് താളത്തെക്കുറിച്ചൊന്നും കൂടുതൽ അറിയാത്ത ഒരാളാണ്. ഞാനിപ്പോഴും പഠിച്ചുകൊണ്ടേയിരിക്കുന്നതാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് എൻ്റെ പേര് ശങ്കരൻകുട്ടി എന്നായത്. കുട്ടിയായതുകൊണ്ട് എപ്പോഴും പഠിച്ചുകൊണ്ടേയിരിക്കാം. ഒരു ചെമ്പട താളം വലന്തലയിൽ പിടിക്കാം. അത് പിടിക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പേ സാധാരണ എല്ലാ വാദ്യങ്ങളും എല്ലാ കലകളും അഭ്യസിക്കുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഒരു വന്ദനമുണ്ട്. അത് ഗണപതി വന്ദനം. അതുമാതിരി ചെണ്ടയിൽ ഗണപതി കൈ എന്നാണ് പേര്. അതിൻ്റെ വായ്ത്താരി ഇംഗ്ലീഷല്ല, മലയാളമല്ല, ഹിന്ദിയല്ല, ഉറുദു അല്ല, തമിഴല്ല, ഒന്നുമല്ല. അത് അതിൻ്റേതായ ഭാഷയാണ്. താം തിതാം ദൈത്തതി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ് ഭാഷ എനിക്കറിയില്ല. തെയ്യാ തൈഹി അറിയില്ല. അത് ഈ ഭാഷക്കെല്ലാം അതീതമായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഒരു ഉപകരണത്തിൽ എന്ത് ശബ്ദമാണോ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നത് അതിന് പാകത്തിനുള്ള ഏതോ ഒരു ശബ്ദം, അത് ഗണപതി കൈയിൽ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു വായ്ത്താരിയുണ്ട്. ബോൾസ്, അത് ഞാൻ പറയാം. ഗി കാം നഗതരകാം ദിരികിട്ട് ദിഗതരകാം നഗതരക ദിരികിട്ട്. സാധാരണ ഒരു ചെണ്ടവാദ്യം അഭ്യസിക്കുന്നത് കരിങ്കല്ലിൽ പുളിമുട്ടി എന്നാണ് അതിൻ്റെ പേര്. അത് ഉപയോഗിച്ചാണ് കൊട്ട് പഠിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങുന്നത്. അതിനുശേഷം ചെണ്ടയുടെ വലന്തലയിൽ കൊട്ടും. അതിനുശേഷം മാത്രമേ ഇടന്തലയിലേക്ക് വരൂ. ഇപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് അതിനൊന്നും അവസരമില്ലാത്തതുകൊണ്ട്, ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു ഫാസ്റ്റ് യുഗമായതുകൊണ്ട് തുടക്കം തന്നെ ഇടന്തലയിലാണ്. പഴയ ഇതൊന്നും മാറി തുടക്കം തന്നെ. ഇപ്പോൾ പഠിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങുന്ന ഒരു കുട്ടി ആദ്യം ഒരു ഇടന്തല ചെണ്ടയാണ് മേടിക്കാം. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഇടന്തലയിൽ തന്നെ തുടങ്ങാം. ഈ പറഞ്ഞ ഗണപതി കൈ ഗി കാം നഗതരകാം ദിരികിട്ട് ദിഗതരകാം നഗതരക ദിക്കനക ദിരികിട്ട് ദിഗതര. ഈ താളത്തിൽ ഗണപതിക്ക് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞതും അവർ കൊട്ടിയതും രണ്ടും രണ്ടാണ്. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞ ഗീ കാം നഖതരകാം ഈ കാലമാണ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്. അവർ കൊട്ടിയത് ഗീക്കാം നഖതരകാം ഇരട്ടി. അവിടെയാണ് ഇത് എന്തിനാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. പഴയ ചെണ്ടയിലെ മഹാരഥനായിട്ട് ജീവിച്ച് നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ വിട്ടുപോയ സാക്ഷാൽ കലാമണ്ഡലം കൃഷ്ണൻകുട്ടി പൊതുവാളാശാൻ, അദ്ദേഹം ഞാൻ പഠിക്കുന്ന ഒരു കാലത്ത് ഒരു ക്ലാസ് എനിക്ക് എടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അന്ന് ഞാൻ ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് കൊട്ടിയത്. ഗിക്കാം നഗതരകാം തിരികിടുതുകതരകാം നഗതരക ഡിക്കാൻ നക ഡെഡും തിരികിടുതുകതരകാം. ഞാനിങ്ങനെ അതികേമനാണെന്നൊക്കെ വിചാരിച്ചിട്ട് ഇപ്പം എന്താ ചെയ്തത്? ആശാൻ എന്നോട് എന്താ ഇപ്പോൾ ചെയ്തത്? ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ഗണപതിക്കൈ. എന്താണ് അതിൻ്റെ ഉദ്ദേശം? വാട്ട് ഈസ് ദ എയിം ഫോർ ദാറ്റ്? ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു ഗണപതിനെ വന്ദിക്കുക. ഒരു ഭഗവാന്റെ അടുത്ത് പോയിട്ട് ഭഗവാനെ ഇരിക്കുന്നു അങ്ങനെയാണോ പറയാ? ആ കൊട്ടുന്നതിന് ആ ഭാവം കൂടി ഉണ്ടാവണം. അങ്ങനെ ആയിരിക്കണം കൊട്ടേണ്ടത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ആ ഭാവത്തിലുള്ളൊരു കൊട്ട് ആദ്യം പറഞ്ഞ കാലത്തിൽ ഒന്നും കൂടി കേൾക്കാം. ഈ വിദ്യക്ക് ഇതിൻ്റെ പിന്നിൽ ഒരാളും കൂടി ഇരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഞാൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തിനെ മറന്നതല്ല. അതെൻ്റെ മരുമകനായതുകൊണ്ട് വേണ്ട രീതിയിൽ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്താമെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു. അദ്ദേഹമാണ് മട്ടന്നൂർ അജിത് മാര. അദ്ദേഹം അതിഗംഭീരനായ ഒരു എഴുത്താളക്കാരനാണ്. ചിലപ്പോൾ ഇന്നലെ തായുമ്പോൾ കണ്ടവർക്കത് മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ടാകും. കാരണം ഇങ്ങനെ പിന്നിൽ നിന്ന് ഞങ്ങളെ ഓടിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി ശ്രമിക്കുന്ന ഒരു താളക്കാരൻ വേറെ ഇല്ലാന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഈ ഗണപതി കയ്യിൽ അദ്ദേഹം എന്നൊരു താളം കൂടി ചേർത്താൽ അതിനൊന്നും കൂടി സ്വാദ് കൂടുമോ എന്നൊരു തോന്നൽ നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം. ഞങ്ങൾ ഇനി നിങ്ങൾ കൈയടിക്കണ്ട. ഞാൻ ആകെ പഠിച്ചത് ഒരു 4-5 താളമേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഞാൻ താളം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ പഠിച്ചത് അതൊരു നമ്പറാണല്ലോ. നമ്മൾ ഇറക്കുന്ന നമ്പറല്ല കേട്ടോ, അങ്ങനെ വിചാരിക്കരുത്. 1, 2 തുടങ്ങി ഇവിടെയുള്ളവരും ലോകത്തിലെ എവിടെയുള്ളവരും എത്ര വരെ എണ്ണാൻ സാധിക്കും എന്ന് നിങ്ങൾ ധരിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടോ എനിക്കറിയില്ല. ഞാൻ 9 വരെ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളൂ. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 ആവണമെങ്കിൽ ആദ്യത്തെ 1 കൂട്ടണം. 11 ആവണമെങ്കിൽ 2 കൂട്ടണം. അങ്ങനെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എത്ര അക്ഷരങ്ങളും കൂട്ടി നിങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന ഏത് താളത്തിനും പ്രത്യേക പേരൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ് കൊടുക്കാം. ഇത് ഞാനുണ്ടാക്കിയ താളമാണ്, ഇത് അദ്ദേഹം ഉണ്ടാക്കിയ താളമാണ്. ഇതിൽ എന്നെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാൻ ഏറ്റവും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെടുന്ന എളുപ്പമായിട്ട് പഠിക്കാനുള്ള വിദ്യ പഠിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ ഏറ്റവും എളുപ്പമായിട്ടുള്ള ഉപകരണം ചെണ്ടയാണ്. ലോകത്തിൽ ഏത് വിഷയവും ശരി ഏറ്റവും എളുപ്പം ഈസി ആയിട്ടുള്ളത് ചെണ്ടയാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് കലാക്ഷേത്രത്തിലെ ഡാൻസ് പഠിക്കുന്നവരെല്ലാവരും അമ്മ ക്ഷമിക്കണം, എല്ലാവരും ചെണ്ട കൂടി പഠിക്കണം. അതിന് ഞാൻ വന്ന് പഠിപ്പിക്കാനും തയ്യാറാണ്. കൈയടിക്കാതിരിക്കില്ല, കൈ അടിക്കണ്ടാവുന്നാലും അടിക്കും. കാരണം അതാണ് അവരുടെ ആ സന്തോഷം. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ചെമ്പട താളം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ത ത ത ത ധീം 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 ത ത ത ത ധീം ധീം ധീം. 8 അക്ഷരം. ഇനി അത് 10 ആവണമെങ്കിൽ ത ത ത ധീം 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 ധീം. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. അതിലൊരു കഥകളിയുടെ കലാശം ഉണ്ണീഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു. ഇതിൽ ഗണപതിക്കയും കൊട്ടും ഉണ്ണീകൃഷ്ണൻ. നമുക്കതും കൂടി ഒന്ന് നോക്കാലോ. ഇനി അടുത്ത താളം, അടന്ത താളം. ത ത ത ധീം ത ത ത ധീം ധീം തേ. 14. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14. ഇതിലും ഉണ്ണീഷൻ ഗണപതി കൈകൊട്ടും. ഇനി എന്തൊരു സന്തോഷമാണെന്ന് പറയാൻ പോലും സമ്മതിക്കില്ല. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് 14 അക്ഷരമുള്ള താളം വന്നു, 10 അക്ഷരമുള്ള ചെമ്പ വന്നു, 8 അക്ഷരമുള്ള. ഇവിടെയാണ് കൈയടിക്കുമ്പോൾ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക. 8 അക്ഷരമുള്ള താളത്തിന് നമ്മുടെ താളത്തിൻ്റെ പേര് ചെമ്പട. എല്ലാവരും കൂടി ഒന്ന് ചേർന്ന് മൂന്നാമത്തെ അടിക്ക് പറഞ്ഞാൽ മതി. 1 2. 10 അക്ഷരമുള്ള താളത്തിൻ്റെ പേര് ചെമ്പ. ത ത ത ധീം 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 തൈ. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. അപ്പോൾ 14 അക്ഷരമുള്ള അടന്ത വന്നു, 10 അക്ഷരമുള്ള ചെമ്പ വന്നു, 8 അക്ഷരമുള്ള സമാധാനം. ഇനി അടുത്തത് നമുക്ക് 7 അക്ഷരം. അത് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ത്രിപുട താളം എന്നാ പറയാറ്. മൊത്തം 7 അക്ഷരം. 2 3 2 3 2 2 + 3 = 2 ഗ്യാപ്പ്. ദി തൈ തി തി തൈ ദി തൈ തി തി തൈ. ഇതിൽ ശ്രീരാജ് ഗണപതി കൈകൊട്ടു. നിർത്തണ്ട, പിടിച്ചോളൂ. ഞാൻ പറയുന്ന എല്ലാ താളത്തിലും ഗണപതി കൈ കൊട്ടാനുള്ളത് കൊണ്ടാണ് ഇങ്ങനെ കാണിച്ചു തരുന്നത്. ഇനി അടുത്തത് ഒരു താളം കൂടിയേ നമുക്കുള്ളൂ. അതേ ഞാൻ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളൂ. അതിൻ്റെ പേര് പഞ്ചാരി താളം എന്നാണ്. 6 അക്ഷരം, 5 അടി ഒരൊഴിവ്. ദ തീം ദ ക തോം ദ തീം ദ ക തോം. 1 2 3 4 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6. ഇതിലാരാ ഗണപതി കൈ കൊട്ടുന്ന അവരെല്ലാം തീരുമാനിച്ചു കൊട്ടിക്കോട്ടെ. അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാ താളത്തിലും ഈ ഗണപതിക്ക് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് കൊട്ടാൻ പറ്റുന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഞാൻ കാണിക്കുന്നത്. ഇനി നമുക്ക് ഏത് താളം വേണമെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടാക്കാം. നമ്മൾ നട പറയുമ്പോൾ, ചെമ്പട താളത്തിൻ്റെ നട പറയുമ്പോൾ ചതുരസ്ര നട. അത് എന്നേക്കാളും അറിയുന്നവരാണ് ഈ ഇരിക്കുന്നത് എല്ലാവരും, എനിക്ക് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് ബോധ്യമുണ്ട്. ഉടനെ തിസ്ര നടയാകുമ്പോൾ അത് നമുക്ക് പഞ്ചാരി താളാണ്. നമുക്ക് നമ്മുടെ ഭാഷയിൽ, ഇവിടുത്തെ ഭാഷയിൽ, ലോകത്തിൻ്റെ ഭാഷയിൽ മറ്റൊരു രൂപത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞാൽ രൂപക താളം. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. ഈ പറഞ്ഞ 6 അക്ഷരമുള്ള അതേ താളം പകുതിയെ പിടിക്കുന്നു. ഒന്നും കൂടി 6 അക്ഷരമുള്ള താളം പിടിക്കാം. ആറക്ഷരമുള്ള പഞ്ചാരി താളം. താണതകലം. ഒരു ഗണപതിക്ക് കൊട്ടാം, 3 ആളും ചേർത്തിട്ട്. ഒരു ഗണപതിക്ക് 3 ആളും ചേർത്തിട്ട് കൊട്ടാം. ഇത്രയും താളം മാത്രമേ എനിക്കറിയുള്ളൂ. പിന്നെ അടുത്ത ഗതി നട എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ തിസ്രമായി, ചതുരസ്രമായി. ഇത് രണ്ടും കൂട്ടിയാലാണ് ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ തക്കിട തരികിട. ആദ്യം ഞാൻ സൂചിപ്പിച്ച തക്കിടയും തരികിടയും അതാണ് അടുത്തത്. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. ത കി ട ത രി കി ട തക്കിട്ട തരികിട്ട തക്കിട്ട തരികിട്ട. അത് പിന്നെ എന്തായാലും ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ കൊണ്ടുപോകാം. ആ തക്കിടയും തരികിടയും കൂടി ചേർന്നതാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അതിന് മിശ്ര നട എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. രണ്ടും കൂടി ചേർന്ന് വരുന്നു, തക്കിടയും തരികിടയും. അത് നിങ്ങളും ഞാനും ലോകം മുഴുവൻ ഈ തക്കിടയും തരികിട ചെയ്യുന്നത് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് ധരിച്ചോളൂ. ഇതൊന്നും നമ്മൾ പെട്ടെന്ന് പഠിപ്പിച്ചു കൊടുക്കില്ല. കാരണം ഈ തക്കിടയും തരികിടയും പഠിക്കാൻ 4 കൊല്ലത്തെ കോഴ്സാണ്. അത് ഈ അരമണിക്കൂർ കൊണ്ട് പഠിപ്പിക്കേണ്ട വിഷയമുള്ളൂ എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പറയാം. പിന്നെ ഈ തക്കിടയും തരികിടയും കൃത്യമായിട്ട് വരണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു 40 കൊല്ലം പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യണം. അത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ. You must practice minimum 40 years. അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്താൽ നമുക്ക് ചില തക്കിടിയും തരികിടയൊക്കെ വരുന്നുണ്ടോ. ഇപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാനിപ്പോൾ അത് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരാളാണ്. എവിടെ തരികിട, തക്കിടിയും തരികിടയും പറഞ്ഞാൽ പോരാ, തരികിട തരികിട എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ മാത്രം പോരാ. ഒരേ ഭാഷ നമ്മൾ എങ്ങനെയാണോ സംസാരിക്കുന്നത് അതുമാതിരി വരണം കൊട്ട് എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്. യാതൊരു വികാരമില്ലാതെ തരികിട 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 ഒരു കാര്യമില്ല. നേരെ മറിച്ച് തരികിട്ട തരികിട്ട തരികിട. അത് ഭാഷ മാറി, ഭാവം മാറി. പിന്നെ രണ്ടാമത്തെ തരികിട്ട 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 തരികിട്ട. ഇങ്ങനെ എവിടെയാണോ അതിന് സ്ട്രെസ്സിങ് വേണ്ടത് അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ ഈ ജന്മം പുരുഷായുസ് വന്നാൽ 120 വയസ്സ് വരെ പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. ഈ 120 വയസ്സ് വരെ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് സാധകം ചെയ്താലും കൃത്യമായിട്ട് തരികിടം അറിയുന്നവർ ഇപ്പോഴും ഈ ലോകത്തുണ്ട്, ഞാൻ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നില്ല. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു ജീവിതം മുഴുവൻ, ഒരായുസ് മുഴുവൻ ഈ തരികിട മറിക്കാൻ മാത്രം വേണ്ടി വരുന്നതാണ് പറയാനുള്ളത്. അപ്പം പിന്നെ അവിടെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഈ തക്കിട തരികിടയൊക്കെ വെച്ച് കലാക്ഷേത്രത്തിലും അമേരിക്കയിലും ഇംഗ്ലണ്ടിലും ഒക്കെ പോയിട്ട് ഈ പഠിച്ച ചെറിയ തക്കിടിയും തരികിടയും വെച്ചിട്ടാണ് ഞങ്ങളൊക്കെ സഞ്ചരിക്കുന്നത്. അതാണ് സത്യം. ഇനിയാണ് 9 അക്ഷരം. ഞാൻ ആദ്യം പറഞ്ഞ 9 നമ്പർ. അത് എന്നേക്കാളും അറിയുന്ന നിങ്ങൾക്കാണ്. സങ്കീർണ നട എന്നൊക്കെ പറയും അല്ലേ? അതെങ്ങനെയാ പറയാമെന്ന് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. ആരെങ്കിലും ഒരാൾ എനിക്ക് അവിടെ എഴുന്നേറ്റ് പറഞ്ഞു തരുക എങ്ങനെയാണ് സങ്കീർണ നട. തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്കിട്ട തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്കിട്ട തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്കിട്ട തക്കിട്ട തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്ക്. എങ്ങനെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ നിങ്ങൾ താളം പേപ്പിക്കണ്ട. തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്കിട്ട തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്കിട്ട 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 തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്കിട്ട തക്കിട്ട തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്കിട്ട തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്ക ധിമി തക്ക തക്കിട്ട ത. എത്ര കൃത്യ. ഇനി വല്ല നടയുണ്ടോ? 5 നടക്ക് മേലെ വല്ല നടയുമുണ്ടോ എന്നാണ് എൻ്റെ ചോദ്യം. ഇവിടെ അതറിയുന്നവർ ആരെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ? ബഹുമാനപ്പെട്ട ജനാറ്റിനോട് തന്നെ ഞാൻ ചോദിക്കുന്നു, ഈ 5 നടക്ക് പുറമെ മറ്റു വല്ല നടകളും ഉണ്ടോ എന്ന് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. അദ്ദേഹം പറയുന്ന ഒന്നും ഞാൻ കേട്ടിട്ടില്ല, അതാ സത്യം. പിന്നെ അഥവാ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിലും എല്ലാം ഈ 9 കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് പോയ ഒരു വസ്തു മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. പിന്നെ ഇതിൻ്റെ ഇടയിൽ ഇടം, കാലടം, അരയിടം, മുക്കാലിടം എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് ചില സംഭവം ഉണ്ടല്ലോ. ഒരടി പിടിച്ച് 1 2 ത ത ത ത ത ഇങ്ങനെ ഏകതാളം പോകുന്ന ആദ്യം ത ത ത ത എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഇതാണ് കാലടം. ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഭാഷയിൽ എങ്ങനെ ത ത ത ത ത അരയിടം ത ത ത ത പിന്നെ ത ത തുടങ്ങിയ സ്ഥലത്ത് തന്നെ എത്തുള്ളൂ. ത ത ത ത ത ത ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് എല്ലാ കുട്ടികളും. ഇതെവിടെയാണ് തുടങ്ങുന്നത്, എവിടെയാണ് കലാശിക്കേണ്ടത് എന്നുള്ള ചെറിയൊരു പഠനം മാത്രമേ നമ്മൾ കൊണ്ടു നടക്കുന്നു. എല്ലാം പഠിക്കാൻ വളരെ എളുപ്പമാണ്. പിന്നെ അത് പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്ത് നമുക്ക് ഏത് സമയത്താണ് മഴ വന്നാൽ ഓട്ടോമാറ്റിക്കായിട്ടൊരു കുട വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ആ മഴ നനയില്ല. അതുമാതിരി എവിടെയാണോ അത് ആവശ്യം അവിടെ ആ സംഭവം വരണം. അതിനാണ് വേണ്ടത് ഇവിടെ നമ്മൾ ഫോട്ടോ വെച്ച് ആരാധിക്കുന്ന രുക്മിണി ദേവിയരുണ്ട്. ആ ഫോട്ടോ അവരൊക്കെ ഈ കലാവിഷയത്തിന് ചെയ്തത് അവിടെയാണ്, ആ മഹൽ സ്ഥാപനത്തിലാണ് നമ്മൾ ഇരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇത്രയും മഹത്തായ ഒരു സ്ഥാപനം അവർ ജീവിച്ചിരിക്കുന്ന കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ ഇതേ സ്ഥാപനത്തിൽ വരാനുള്ളൊരു ഭാഗ്യം കൂടി എനിക്കുണ്ടായിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഏകദേശം 50 കൊല്ലം മുമ്പ്. ഞാനിപ്പോഴും ചെറുപ്പമാണെങ്കിലും പ്രായം കുറച്ച് കൂടിയതൊരു സത്യമാണ്. കാര്യം കണ്ടാലൊക്കെ വളരെ ചെറുപ്പമാണ്, പ്രായം അല്പം കൂടിയേ ഉള്ളൂ. അപ്പോൾ ആ ഒരു 50 കൊല്ലം മുമ്പേ അവരുടെ പാതാരവിന്ദങ്ങളിൽ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് നമസ്കരിച്ച് ഇവിടെ കൊട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളൊരാൾ കൂടി തന്നെ മുമ്പിലിരിക്കുന്ന ജനാറ്റിനുൾപ്പെടെ അവരൊക്കെ എൻ്റെ ഗുരുസ്ഥാനീയന്മാരാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു വിഷയത്തിൽ ഈ ചെണ്ടയിൽ ഇനി അധികമൊന്നും പഠിക്കാനില്ല. ഈ പഞ്ചനടയും ഈ 9 വരെയുള്ള താളങ്ങൾ 10 ആക്കണമെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് ചെമ്പ താളമുണ്ട്. 12 ആക്കണമെങ്കിൽ 3 പ്രാവശ്യം രൂപകതാളം പിടിക്കാം. 14 ആവണമെങ്കിൽ ഒരു അടന്ത പിടിക്കാം. 28 ആവണമെങ്കിൽ 2 അടന്ത താളം പിടിക്കാം. കേരളത്തിൽ ചെണ്ട വിഷയത്തിൽ കൊണ്ടു നടക്കുന്ന ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ, ചെണ്ടമേളം ഒരു വിഷയം, ചെണ്ടയിലുള്ള തായമ്പക അത് മറ്റൊരു വിഷയം, പിന്നെ കഥകളിക്കുള്ള അക്കമ്പനിമെന്റ്, വേഷക്കാരൻ്റെ ആട്ടത്തിനും നൃത്തത്തിനും മുദ്രകൾക്കും എല്ലാം കൃത്യമായിട്ട് ശബ്ദവ്യത്യാസങ്ങളും വിന്യാസങ്ങളും ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന ഒരേ ഒരു ഉപകരണമാണ് ചെണ്ട. അതിൽ സിംഹം ഗർജിക്കും, വീണ വായിക്കും, കിളികൾ ചിലക്കും. അതൊക്കെ ചെയ്യാൻ പ്രാപ്തനായിട്ടുള്ള ആളാണ് ഈ ഇരിക്കുന്ന നമ്മുടെ പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട ഉണ്ണികൃഷ്ണൻ. കലാമണ്ഡലം ഗോപിയാശാന് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് കഥകളി രംഗത്ത് അദ്ദേഹത്തിനെ കൊണ്ടു നടക്കുന്ന ആളാണ് ഉണ്ണീഷൻ എന്നാണ് ഞാൻ പറയാറ്. അതാണ് സത്യം. ഇവിടെ വരൂ, മുദ്ര കാണിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ ടിടും തരാ ഡെടും വരണം, ഇവിടെ വാ. അത് ആ മുദ്രക്ക് എത്രമാത്രം ശക്തി വേണം, അതെല്ലാം കൃത്യമായിട്ട് കൊടുക്കുന്ന ഒരു ഉപകരണം കൂടിയാണ് ചെണ്ട എന്നുകൂടി പറയാൻ ഞാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുകയാണ്. പിന്നെ തൽക്കാലം മേളം, തായമ്പുക, കഥകളി മേളം ഇതിനെല്ലാം ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ഉപകരണമാണ് ചെണ്ട. ആദ്യം ഓരോ താളത്തിലുള്ള മേളങ്ങൾ, ആദ്യം ചെമ്പട താളത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു മേളം. സമയം ധാരാളമുള്ളത് കൊണ്ട് കുറേശ്ശല്ലേ കാണിക്കണ്ടു, നമുക്കൊരുപാട് സമയമുണ്ട് ഇവിടെ. അപ്പൊ പിന്നെ കുറേശ്ശെ കാണിക്കാം. ഒരു ചെമ്പട മേളം. അടുത്തതൊരു ചെമ്പമേളം. കൈ ഇതൊക്കെ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടടിച്ചാൽ നമുക്ക് ഇവർ കൊട്ടുമെന്ന് ആദ്യം അറിയണ്ടേ. ഒരു ചെമ്പമേളം. ത ത ത ദീം 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 തൈ. ഇപ്പോൾ കൂട്ടിയത് അതിൻ്റെ നിലയും ഒരു കലാശവുമാണ്. കലാശവും ഗണപതിക്കയും ഒരേ നീളവും ഇതാണ്. കൊട്ടുന്നത് നഗഡഗഡും നഗതരഗഡും നഗതരഗഡുഗണനഗ ഡും ദരികട കഥകളിൽ ദിത്ത തത്ത തിന്തത്ത ദിത്തൈ ദിത്ത ദിഗതത്തൈ നഗതരഗിക്കാം നഗതരകാം ദിരികട നഗതരഗഡുഗണനഗ ഡും ദിരികട കിടത്തക താത്ത കിടതകത തക്കിടകത കിടകത കുതി കുത കുട്ടെ തക്കട് ഇതെല്ലാം ഒന്നാണ്. അതാണ് കൊട്ടിനും കലയ്ക്കും ഭാഷ വിഷയമല്ല. ജർമ്മനിയിൽ പോയിട്ട് അവിടെ ഡേ 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 എന്ന് പിടിച്ചാൽ നമുക്കറിയാം നമ്മുടെ ചെമ്പട ആളായത്. അവരോട് സംസാരിക്കാൻ നമുക്ക് പറ്റില്ല. അതിനവിടുത്തെ ഭാഷ തന്നെ പഠിക്കണം. പക്ഷേ താളം ഇതൊരു യൂണിവേഴ്സൽ വിഷയമാണ്. ലോകം മുഴുവൻ നിറഞ്ഞു നിൽക്കുന്ന ഒരു വിഷയമാണ് താളം എന്ന കാര്യം. അതുകൊണ്ട് അതുമായിട്ട് നമുക്ക് ഏത് ലോകത്തും സഞ്ചരിക്കാം എന്ന് ചെറിയൊരു വികാരമുള്ള ആൾ കൂടിയാണ് ഞാൻ. ഇനി നമുക്ക് കേൾക്കാം അടന്തമേളം. അപ്പോൾ ചെമ്പടയായി, ചെമ്പയായി, അടന്തയായി. ഇനി ഒരു പഞ്ചാരിയും കൂടി കേൾക്കാം. എല്ലാ മേളത്തിനും ഇപ്പോഴൊരു സാധാരണ കലാശം കൊട്ടി. ഇതിനു മുൻപ് ഒരു ഉരുളുകോൽ കലാശം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അതെല്ലാ മേളങ്ങൾക്കും ഉണ്ട്. ആ പഞ്ചാരിയുള്ള ആ ഉരുളുകോൽ കലാശം കൂടി ഒന്ന് നമുക്ക് കേൾക്കാം. ഉരുളുകോൽ കലാശത്തിന് പഞ്ചാരി താളം കൂട്ടിപ്പിടിക്കുക എന്നൊരു സമ്പ്രദായമുണ്ട്. അങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇപ്പം പിടിച്ചത്. കൂട്ടിപ്പിടിക്കാതെ താളം 6 അക്ഷരം മാത്രമായിട്ടൊന്ന് പിടിക്കുക. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ വലന്തലയുടെ ആശാൻ താളം പിഴച്ചിട്ടാ പിടിച്ചത്. സത്യ. ഒന്നും കൂടി നോക്കാം. ഇപ്പോഴാണ് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് പിടിച്ചത്. അത് കാരണം സാധാരണ നാട്ടിൽ മേളം കൊട്ടുമ്പോൾ കലാശം തുടങ്ങിയാൽ കഴിയുന്നത് വരെ ആ ഏകതാളം പിടിക്കും. അതുമാത്രം ശീലിച്ചത് കൊണ്ടാണ്. കാര്യം എൻ്റെ മകൻ്റെ ഭാര്യയുടെ അച്ഛൻ കൂടിയാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തെറ്റിപ്പിടിച്ചാൽ തെറ്റിപ്പിടിച്ചത് പറയാതിരിക്കാൻ വയ്യ. നമുക്ക് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് സത്യസന്ധമായിട്ടാണ് പോകുന്നത്. അതാണ് എൻ്റെ തോന്നൽ. അപ്പം ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് മേളത്തിൻ്റെ. പിന്നെ ചെമ്പടമേളം, ചെമ്പമേളം, അടന്തമേളം, മറ്റൊരു മേളം സാധാരണ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് പറയാൻ പഞ്ചാരി മേളം. ഇപ്പോഴും കൊട്ടിയത് പഞ്ചാരി 5ാമത്തെ കാലമാണ്. പഞ്ചാരി മേളം മൊത്തം ആദ്യത്തെ അക്ഷരം 96 അക്ഷരം വരുമ്പോൾ മാത്രമേ ഒരു സർക്കിളാവുള്ളൂ. അങ്ങനെയാണ് 1ാം കാലം പഞ്ചാരി. 2ാം കാലം വരണമെങ്കിൽ അതിൻ്റെ പകുതി. ആ കണക്ക് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. എത്രയാണ് 96ന്റെ പകുതി? 96ന്റെ പകുതി എത്രയാണ്? ആരെങ്കിലും ഒരാൾ പഠിപ്പിച്ചാൽ മതി. മോഹൻജി, 96ന്റെ പകുതി എത്രയാണ്? 48. അപ്പൊ അതിൻ്റെ പകുതി 3ാം കാലോ? അതിൻ്റെ പകുതി അതല്ല, അവിടെയാണ് തെറ്റ്. 46ന്റെ പകുതി, 48ന്റെ പകുതി, അതാണ് 3ാം കാലം. 4ാം കാലം ഈ പറഞ്ഞ മാതിരി 12 അക്ഷരം. 5ാം കാലം വരുമ്പം 6 അക്ഷരം. ഇപ്പം കൊട്ടിയത് 5ാം കാലമാണ്. അതിന് 6 അക്ഷരമുള്ള താളം. ത, തീം, ദ, ക, തോം. ത, തീം, ദ, ക, തോം. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. നേരെ ഇതിൻ്റെ മേൽക്കാലം ത, ത, തെയ്, 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 തി, തി, തെയ്. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. അതൊന്ന് കാണിക്കാം. 4ാം കാലം. ഇത് പഞ്ചാരി 4ാം കാലം. ഇനി പഞ്ചാരി 3ാം കാലം. ത, 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 ധീം, 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 ധീം. 3ാം കാലം. പിടിച്ചോളൂ, ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞോളാം. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24. അങ്ങനെയാണ് 3-ാം കാലം. ഇനി 2-ാം കാലം. സമയം ധാരാളമുള്ളത് കൊണ്ട് അതും കൂടി ഒന്ന് കാണിക്കാമല്ലോ അല്ലേ? ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് വേണ്ട, ഒരുപാട് സമയം പോകും. ഇതിന് പുറമെ 2-ാം കാലം ഒരുപാട് സമയമെടുക്കും. 1-ാം കാലം 96 അക്ഷരം വരണം 1 സർക്കിളിന്. അപ്പം അത് സമയം ഇതിൻ്റെ ഇരട്ടി എന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചാൽ മതി. ചിലതൊക്കെ നിങ്ങളും വിചാരിച്ച് കണക്കൂട്ടുകയും കൂടി വേണമല്ലോ, ഞങ്ങൾ മാത്രം ചെയ്താൽ പോരല്ലോ. ബാക്കി നിങ്ങൾ വിചാരിച്ചുണ്ടാക്കുക. അടുത്തത് കേരളത്തിൽ വളരെ പ്രസിദ്ധമായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു മേളാണ് പാണ്ടിമേളം. അത് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞാൽ 14 അക്ഷരമാണ്. 14 അക്ഷരത്തിൽ ഉള്ളൊരു മേളമാണ്. അത് ഓരോ കാലമായിട്ടല്ല, അതിങ്ങനെ പിരമിഡ് മാതിരിയാണ്. സ്റ്റെപ്പില്ല. 96 48 24 12 6 പഞ്ചാരി മേളത്തിനുള്ളത് മാതിരി അങ്ങനെയല്ല അതിൻ്റെ കണക്ക്. അതിങ്ങനെ നല്ല പിരമിഡ്, ആ പാരീസിലുള്ള ഈഫൽ ടവറൊക്കെ ഇല്ലേ, അതുമാതിരി അങ്ങനെ പോയിട്ട് ഒരു മുനയിൽ നിർത്താൻ. അവസാനം നമ്മൾ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ ത്രിപുട താളം തി തൈ തി തി തൈ തി തൈ തി തി ത കി ത ത ക ധീമി 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 ത കി ത ത ക ധീമി. നനക 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 നനക. ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് അത് നിർത്തുക. ഇപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് മനസ്സിലായി ഈ കയ്യടിയുടെ അർത്ഥം എന്താണെന്ന്. അപ്പം എല്ലാ മേളം കൊട്ടിയാലും ഒരു തീര് കലാശം, നമ്മൾ ഡാൻസിലൊക്കെ അവസാനം ഒരു തില്ലാനൊക്കെ ചെയ്ത് നിർത്തുന്നില്ല, അതുമാതിരി ഒരു തീര് കലാശം. നമ്മുടെ തില്ലാനക്ക് ചെണ്ടകൊട്ടിൻ്റെ ഭാഷയിൽ ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചെണ്ടക്കാരൻ്റെ ഭാഷയിൽ അതിന് തീര് കലാശം എന്നാ പറയാം. ആ തീര് കലാശം കൂടി ഒന്ന് കൊട്ടി കാണിക്കാം. ഇപ്പോഴും ഞാൻ രക്ഷപ്പെട്ടു. നൗ ഐ എസ്കേപ്ഡ്. സമയം ധാരാളമുള്ളതുകൊണ്ട് ഇനി തുടരണോ അതോ വേണ്ട, അതോ അടുത്ത പ്രാവശ്യം വന്നിട്ട് മതിയോ? കാരണം മുഴുവൻ ഇപ്പം തന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നിങ്ങൾ അടുത്ത പ്രാവശ്യം എന്നെ വിളിക്കില്ല. എനിക്ക് ഇവിടെ അമ്മ എനിക്കിങ്ങ് നെക്സ്റ്റ് ടൈമും വരണം അന്തമായൊരു ഇതിருக்கு. ஆனால் கம்ப்ளீட்டாக இப்போ கொடுத்தா நெக்ஸ்ட் வாட்டி வர முடியாது. So one more time minimum please call me. Not only me, it might you. Next time வந்து മിനിമം 51 പേര് ആർട്ടിസ്റ്റുമാരെ വെച്ച് നമുക്ക് இந்த വെളിയിലെ ഓപ്പൺ എയറിൽ ഒരു കറക്റ്റ് ഒരു പഞ്ചാരി മേളം 1.5 മണിക്കൂർ. ആ സമയത്ത് നിങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യേണ്ട ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടിയുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പൊ കയ്യടിയൊക്കെ ശരി, ഒരുപാട് സന്തോഷം. ഈ തീര് കലാശം കൊട്ടുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഇപ്പം അതിനെങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മളും കൂടി കൈവെക്കുക, അതും കൂടി ഒന്ന് അറിയണല്ലോ. അപ്പോൾ ഞാനിവിടുന്ന് കാട്ടും, നിങ്ങൾ ഡാൻസ് പഠിച്ചവരാണ്, പാട്ട് പഠിച്ചവരാണ്, കൊട്ട് മാത്രം പഠിക്കാത്തവരുമാണ്. അപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ കൂടെ ഞാൻ കാണിക്കുന്ന താളം കൂടി നിങ്ങൾ കൈകൊണ്ടൊന്ന് കാണിക്കും എന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു പ്രാവശ്യം കൂടി തീര് കലാശം കൊട്ടാം, തുടങ്ങാം. ഒരു പ്രാവശ്യം കൂടി തീര് കലാശം കൊട്ടാം, തുടങ്ങാം. അപ്പോൾ ഒരുപാട് സന്തോഷം, ரொம்ப സന്തോഷം. കലാശിക്കട്ടുമാ, ഗണപതിക്കൈ ഒന്നുകൂടി കൊട്ടി കലാശിക്കാം. ത ത ത ത ധീം 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 ത ത ത ത
That was indeed a wonderful beginning for the day. We thank you so much, Asha, for the spiritful session. May I now invite our beloved senior guru, Professor A. Janardhanan sir, and Director Srimati Revathi Ramachandran to kindly come up onto the dais to felicitate the artists. Please, sir. Padmasri Mattannur Shankarankutty Marar. Shri Kalamandalam Unnikrishnan. Shri Mattannur Shrikant. Shri Mattannur Shri Raj. Shri Mattannur Ajit Marar. And Shri Ram Kumar.
I think last evening and this morning, it had been so amazing. And whatever Sir said, I think I pray to God that God gives us the energy and also the whatever is needed to have whatever he said, that 50 people together, it would be a spectacle. And I want that to happen in Kalakshetra. Pray for that. Sure, with Attai's blessings, which have always been here on the stage, I can find it. I'm sure we will be able to do it, and Sir there to guide us. Thank you so much. எங்களுக்கு வந்து ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்தது. ஒவ்வொரு ஆஸ்பெக்டும் எல்லாரும் நேத்திக்கும் ரொம்ப பிரமாதமாக இருந்தது. இன்னைக்கும் ரொம்ப we enjoyed and wonderful to see how the whole family is involved in this. As I always feel that Kerala people, no, Kerala can only do this. They have faith in what we belong to. So wonderful, really moved. Thank you.
Other than the Pancha Jati, is it no? Trisha Jati, Chaturasha Jati, Khanda Jati, Mishra Jati, and Sankira Jati. He asked whether is there any other talas. Of course, I was hesitant, but we say Edipu or Thalli Edukkurathu. இதெல்லாம் கிரகம் சொல்லுவா இல்லையா, எங்கேருந்து ஆரம்பிக்குது, ஒரு தள்ளி எடுக்கிறது, ரெண்டு இதெல்லாம் இடுப்பு. அது நம்ம சம்பிரதாயத்தில் அவருக்கு அதுதான் தெரியும், கேட்டார், சொல்லலை, அதிக பிரசங்கத்தில் இருக்கக்கூடாது. இதுதான் இந்த 5 ஜாதிக்கு மேலே இல்லை. நடை, அப்புறம் இதுதான் சொல்வது, வேறு ஒன்றும் கிடையாது. அது அவரை பற்றி சொல்கிறது, அவர் பக்கத்தில் இருக்கிறது நமக்கு தகுதி கிடையாது. உண்மையாக மலையாது. ஆனால் பக்கத்தில் अनंतरत्न प्रभवस्य हिमन्न सौभाग्य विलोपि जातम् एकोपि दोषो गुणसन्निपाते निमज्जयन्तु किरणेश्वरम्. Himalaya is so beautiful and well known world over. He is just like the field of Chenda. Not only Chenda, I am so happy that he was my guide for the first time. When Athe was here, he was accompanying on Chenda for me, a character called Kichaka and Kichakavata, so I remember that. There are so many great artists in the field of Chenda, but unparalleled. You cannot compare anybody to that.
Our second topic for today will be Dhvani, Imagination versus Imitation by Dr. K.G.Paulose. Dr. K.G.Paulose is formerly a fellow of Indian Institute of Advanced Study, Shimla. He was the first Vice Chancellor of Kerala Kalamandalam, deemed to be University for Art and Culture. He specializes in comparative aesthetics, Natya Shastra, ancient theatre, and Kodiyatam. He has authored 20 books and edited over 50 while publishing many research papers. Some of his important publications on performing arts are Natankusham, A Critique of Dramaturgy, Kodiyatam Theatre, The Earliest Living Tradition, Vyangya Vakya, The Aesthetics of Dhvani in Theatre and Text and Performance, The Interpretive and Narrative Traditions of Indian Theatre. He is an awardee of Kerala Sahitya Academy, Kerala Sangeet Natak Academy, Tirupati Sanskrit Vishwavidyalaya conferred on him the title of Vachaspati. May I now invite Dr. K.G.Paulose onto the dais for the second session.
ഈ മട്ടന്നൂരിൻ്റെ നാദപ്രപഞ്ചം കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പിന്നെ അവിടെ ഒന്നും സംസാരിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല, പറയുന്നതിന് അർത്ഥം ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. That is the wonderful effect of his Chenda play. Anyhow, let us proceed. Friends, so I will talk in English. That will be convenient for all of you. That's why. The director of this prestigious institution, Dr. Revati Ramachandran, is a good friend of mine for long. The distinguished members of the faculty, many of them are my close friends. The galaxy of scholars and artists before me is always a source of inspiration to talk to you. I consider every journey to this temple of arts as a pilgrimage, mainly because of the pleasure to communicate with the students. They are not students in the normal sense of the term, in the ordinary sense, but are the disciples of a great tradition. Two things I used to tell to my students in Kerala Kalamandalam when I was Vice Chancellor there. One, art has something divine in it. You have to learn it passionately. Passion to what you learn is the key word for a disciple of art. Two, you practice in your galleries. That is very important. Every art form equally important is the knowledge you acquire about the art form. Every art form has a philosophy, aesthetics behind it. Practice and theory, theory and practice, both go together to make you a good performer. My blessings to all the young budding artists to become renowned in your own respective fields. Our topic of discussion today, as you know, is Dhvani, imagination versus imitation. At the outset, I fear it may sound somewhat strange, but let us try to decode it. In India, every discussion on theatre starts with the Natya Shastra of Bharata Muni. This, as you know, is an encyclopedic work on theatre compiled somewhere in the 2nd century before Common Era. All these things you know, just I am mentioning you. Bharata himself was a talented actor. Let us believe like that. Talented actor. Otherwise he could not have written such a, compiled such a great treatise. And in all probability, the head of a performance group, he had within him the recorded aphorisms of his predecessors, the in-depth experience he gained through practice, and the rich knowledge he acquired through interaction with contemporary conventions. The theatre should have been very vibrantly active during his period. That is in the 2nd century BC we are talking about. Now, let's come to the topic. Bharata uses the word Natya to denote all that is related to the actor. That's a wonderful thing. Natasya, Nadavrittasya. He explained what is Natya. Natya is Nadavritta. Everything related to Nada is Natya. His study focuses on the actor. He uses the word Nata and Nartaka as synonyms. Though both these words come from different roots, he uses it as synonyms. In Malavikagnimitra, Kalidasa designates the instructors of dance, Haridatta and Ganadasa. You know the story. They are the Nritya Acharyas there. But what Kalidasa says is Natya Acharyas, not Nritya Acharyas. My point is that he did not make any distinction between Nritya and Natya throughout Natya Shastra, not only in the 4th chapter. In Natya Shastra, we have only 2 concepts, Natya and Nritta. Dasarupaka, in the 11th century, 1000 years later, we get another term related to Natya, that is Nritya. Dasarupaka, in the 11th century, defined Nritta as Tala and Laya, Nrittam, Tala, Laya, Shreyam, Nritya as Bhavashrayam, and Natya as Rasa oriented. The three different kinds of Natya. Again, Nritya contains Padartha Abhinaya and Natya Vakyartha Abhinaya. This is a later development caused by the emergence of regional art forms, Kathakali, Kudiyattam, etc., etc. You have both Natya Padartha Abhinaya and Vakyartha Abhinaya. In dance also, mainly Padartha Abhinaya. Bharata reveals his concept of imitation in a symbolic way. That has come to our topic. It is imitation. What is imitation? He reveals his concept in a symbolic way. The demons revolted against the first presentation, Amrita Mathana. It was Amrita Mathana that Bharata presented first. It was his first presentation. And when the presentation was going on, the Asuras revolted. The story is the churning of the ocean, you know it, Amrita Mathana. In which the Asuras complained that they were represented in bad taste. The thing is, both the Devas and Asuras, both of them together were churning the ocean. When the results came, all the good things were taken by the Devas. And the Asuras were actually cheated. That is what happened in our life. So when this was presented on stage by Bharata, the Asuras felt that they were cheated. So they came to Brahma, complained to Brahma, and he complained to them. Their complaint was very, they said, Lord Brahma, you have created us and the Devas alike. So you should not discriminate us. So the Devas, the Asuras complained to Brahma. Then Brahma convinced them that the Natya you saw on stage is not Anukarana. This is very important. It is not Anukarana, but he uses a different word. It is Bhava Anukirtana. You have to remember, Bharata several times said that Sapta Divasya Sarvasya Natyam, Trailokisya Sarvasya Natyam Anukaranam. Okay. Now he says this is not Anukarana. This is Bhava Anukirtana. He is introducing a new word for Anukarana. He uses the word Bhava Anukirtana to convey this special meaning of imitation. So what happened there on stage was not Anukarana, it was Bhava Anukirtana. There are three terms here. Bhava Anukirtana. Now, Anukriti in the normal sense is Anukaranam, normal sense. It is an action. Kriti is an action. The suffix, the prefix Anu has two meanings. It can be Anu Paschad, after seeing something. Then Sadrisham, Anirubamidam, that means this is similar, Sadrisham. So, Anu means an action repeated, Anu, after or similar, Sadrisham, to the original. Imitation here is of a particular, Niyata Anukara here. Kalidasa has used the word Bhava. So now we are having a new term, Bhava Anukirtana. What's the meaning of Bhava Anukirtana? Bhava The word, we know the word bhava. There are several meanings of the word bhava. No student of Natyashastra need to be told, but Kalidasa uses this word bhava in a particular sense. You know, Megha Sandesha, maybe aware of Megha Sandesha, and the Yakshapagni is there. He describes the Yakshapagni to Yaksha. That is, the Yaksha describes the Yakshapagni. Now what will she be doing there in my absence? 8 months have passed on. He says, when you go there, my wife will be Mal Sadrishyam Viraha Tanuva Bhavagamyam Likhandi. My wife will be, after this prolonged separation from me, drawing me. Mat Sadrishyam Virahatanu. Now, the photograph, not photograph sadly, the picture. Today it could be a photograph, whatever it be. So now the picture she is drawing about her husband is Virahatanu. Virahatanu means lean and fatigue, Virahadinu, after 8 months of separation. Now the question is, how can the Pagni draw the picture of her husband as lean and fatigued? She has never seen him in that way. When they were together, he was quite handsome. Then how she drew her picture, his picture, Viraha Tainu. Then Kalidasa says, she did not write his picture as she has seen, but Bhavagamyam Likhandi. Bhava means imagination. She is imagining what will be the position of my husband after 8 years. I am not there to protect him, and he will be always worried. His Tanu will be Viraha Tanu. So the thing here is, Bhava means imaginative. Yakshapagni is drawing his picture by imagination, not the real picture. So, when we say Bhava Anu Kirtana, what Parada means is that Anu Kirtana, we know it, writing something after seeing it, drawing something after seeing it, but imaginatively drawing something after seeing it. Bhava Anu Kirtana. This is a very important concept in Natyashastra. What does Bharata mean by this? Bhava Anu Kirtana. Now, Kalidasa explains Bhavagamyam by imagination. Creativity is imaginative. What Kalidasa says is that, Yakshapagni is imaginative and her picture is the result of an imaginative, creative art. Creativity is imaginative, not imitative. Anukirtanam, visualizing something in its perfect, idealized form. Kirtanam means idealized, not as it is, but as it would be. It's it. Idealized form. Bhavanukirtanam for Bharata is not imitation, but an idealized representation for which the primary requirement for an artist is the faculty of imagination. Now let us go to our Asura's case. Now, how did Brahma console the rebellious Asuras? He told them that what you saw on stage was not Anukarana, but it was Anukirtana. They understood the meaning and went away. All their problems are over, they were satisfied and they went away. Now let me ask you, did you understand the actual difference between these two? How the Asuras were satisfied? What did they understand? They came here with all problems and they were in, they had the stambha, what was going on stage. Ranga Stambhanam, they did it. Then they came to Brahma. Now they understood, realized, they went back peacefully. So what exactly they understood from Brahma's words? Or what exactly is the difference between Anukarana and Anukirtana? Now, what did they understand from Bharata's words, from Brahma's words? Okay. What is the distinction between the two? Distinction between Anukarana and Anukirtana, Bhava Anukirtana. It is the same distinction. Remember, this is the same distinction which has between Abhida and Vyanjana. You know Abhida Vyabhara is there and Vyanjana Vyabhara is also there. It is from Vyanjana we get Dhvani. It is from Abhida we get the ordinary meaning. Abhida Vyabhara and Vyanjana Vyabhara, two senses. Abhida gives the dictionary meaning, bare, prosaic, realistic, like mimicry. Excuse me, mimicry is not an art form. Now it is presented everywhere, but for us or for Bharata, for that matter, it is not an art form. There is nothing creative in it except the blind repetition. That's all. So Abhida is the rustic, realistic presentation and Vyanjana. But Bhavani Kirtana is imaginative. It gives us the myriad meanings, lifting us to sublime emotions. It is something new, creative, not repetitive. I think you have understood the meaning correctly. Because this is the core of my paper, that's what I insist here. So what we see on stage is not imitation. It is not a mimicry. It is not a realistic presentation. But it is a creative, imaginative presentation. So Anukarana means imaginative, original, creative presentation. Whereas Anukarana means only a repetition. So what the Asuras thought was, they are repeating what happened in the Devasura Yuddha, in the Amrita Mathana. Brahma told him, no, it is nothing like that. It is just an imagination of something what happened. It is not real. Don't come against them. Don't be angry with them. So they were satisfied. I think I have made it clear the difference between imitation and imagination. Imitation is as it is. Imagination is something creative. This is the difference between the two. Bharata tells us Saptadvipanigaranam Natyam. To the Asuras, he says it is not Saptadvipanigaranam. The Saptadvipanigaranam you have to read as Bhava Anukirtanam. The distinction of the two are very important. Now, so I think I have made the first thing very clear, because it is very cardinal point in Natya Shastra, in Bharata's Natya Shastra, and many of our interpreters or critics have not exactly understood the significance. I have asked my students, why did the Asuras went back? Are they satisfied? What was the reply? They could simply say that Brahma told them, they believed the words of Brahma, they went back, that's all. But they understood it really. Bharata was here telling us the cardinal point with regard to Anigarana, either in dance or in drama, anywhere. It is like that. So, in order to keep up Anukruti in this sublime level, I mean in its sublime level, not in the realistic day-to-day life, Bharata has prescribed two conditions. One, contemporary themes should not be brought to the stage. Avoid contemporary things. So, why should we go to Vrindavana, Gopikas and others? For dance, we have several things to take it now for our dance here. Bharata says, don't take contemporary things. Two, the stylized mode of acting, Natya Dharmi, must be encouraged. We have Loka Dharmi and Natya Dharmi. Encourage Natya Dharmi and not Loka Dharmi. Imitation and imagination are thus interlinked in Indian performance tradition. The creativity of an actor, but dancer. Whenever I say actor, you take it as dancer, because Nata, Nartaki, the same sense Bharata uses there. The creativity of an actor, a dancer, depends mainly on his or her imaginative faculty, not what we have told them, what we have taught them in our colleges. It's only preliminary things which we are instructing them in the colleges. See, in her imaginative faculty, he has not seen Ravana. So, for example, that is Anukarana, if it is imitating someone, something which we have seen. That is a common notion about Anukarana. See, he has not seen Ravana, Ravana's horrifying figure with 10 hands, 20 eyes and 20 hands. When Ravana gazes Sita, in Astete Chudamani, in Kudiyatam, we have a wonderful scene wherein Ravana sees Sita for the first time, and he is completely caught by her beauty. And that Sri, we call it Panathirubam. Panathirubam. Rubam means beauty. Drinking the beauty of Sita. Ravana, it's a wonderful piece of performance. How the 20 eyes, the 20 hands, long for embracing her, seeing her beauty, and our Kudiyatam actors present it wonderfully well. We will say Panathirubam. Again, they will present it for 1 and 1.5 hours. How? Because 20 eyes seeing the beauty and bringing it, that's it. Every eye has a separate bhava there doing it. Panathirubam. Whenever you see Kudiyatam, So you ask the actor to present the Panadiruba of in Ashari Chudamani, how Ravana sees Sita with his 20 eyes and 20 hands, embraces her by 20 hands. The scene is wonderfully portrayed by Shakti-Bhadra in Ashari Chudamani. Panati Rupa Rasayana. Rupa means the Rupa Rasayana. You know it. The Rupa is beauty. Rupa is now a Rasayana. And he is bringing it. The scene is wonderfully portrayed by Shakti-Bhadra in his play. The actor can visualize this before the eyes of the spectators only by his imagination. How can I say this actor has not seen somebody with 20 eyes, somebody with 20 hands. So in the normal pace, he can represent the love between a man and a woman. A man having 2 eyes is all right. Here, how does he present it? He has not seen Ravana. So what he does is, a man with the 2 eyes, when he is in terribly love with his love, acts like this. Had he, say, 20 eyes, or rather 1,000 eyes, our actors will perhaps do it when Indira sees it, 1,000 eyes. What would have been their reaction? So what I am telling is that they do it, they imaginatively represents it. How can an actor create Mount Kailas in the air? Kailasotharanam, all of you might have heard it. An actor creating a Kailasa on stage. How does he do that? He has not even seen Kailasa. So how can Shakuntala or her friends water the plants with empty hands? Even a pot is not used here. Some people now takes a pot. That also is wrong, what we say. Because it is a Natya Dharmi. The Abhinaya is Natya Dharmi, purely there. So the bare stage is there. And there is the garden, there are plants, they are watering there. And our actors, when they water it, they will even show that, when the water comes to the ground, you see the plants, they get, say, up and up, and some bees fly over it. They are presenting it on the stage without any of these things. That means they are imaginatively recreating a garden on stage. In all these instances, actors are not imitating something they have seen, but creating new, idealized visual images through imagination. So this is my point here with regard to imitation and imagination. The most important word, concept of Bharata in his is his treatment of rasa. I need not go into the details because you all know what rasa is and how it is presented. The key word here is bhava. But remember, the word bhava does not have the other meaning there. When Yakshapagni wrote his word, it was bhava gamyam, it was imaginative. But here it is, bhava is entirely different thing. It denotes two notions, bhava. The emotional DNA, so to say, latent in our mind. This DNA, this word is not Bharata, don't misunderstand it. But I say it is I and it is there in everybody, in you and in me, everywhere. Perhaps somebody can test it with some DNA test now, in our new circumstances. It devotes two notions. The emotional DNA, so to say, latent in every being. Let us call it the permanent mood, the sthayi. The outward expression of this mood is also known as bhava. Bhava is the sthayi, and bhava also is the correlatives through which we express it. Kavehe andargadam bhavam, that is a sthayi, the shoka in the poets. Bhavayan bhava uchyate, they express it, an artist expresses it. That also is bhava. So, bhava has two meanings here. Mood is also known as bhava. Basic emotions are 8. You know all these things? Just basic emotions are 8. Transient moods are 33. And the involuntary expressions are 8. The emotional complex thus consists of 49 bhavas, of which 8 are invisible. That is, the sthayi is invisible. And what the dancer or the actor tries to do, that is to express this invisible bhava through his actions. That is, 8 are invisible and 41 are the expressive tools. We call it correlatives. The primary responsibility of an actor is to portray the emotive experience of the character through these expressive correlatives. The actor cannot show the shoga on stage. He can show only the expressive correlatives. The tears he can show, stambha, all these things he can show, but she cannot show the shoka in her mind. Shoka is invisible there. She is expressing it through the correlatives, the anubhavas. The primary the actor has only his body to interact with the audience, but this body does not show the inner bhava, the shoga or the reti. It is not shown in this body. So, she transforms her body into a language through movement of his limbs, angika, verbal lettering, vachika, and more importantly, facial, sattvika expressions. In addition, the costume and makeup also help for a conducive atmosphere. These expressions regularly, singularly, or as a combination are abhinaya and are the most important aspect in theatre. Bharata discusses in detail abhinaya in 3 different contexts in Natyashastra. We know it. I am just reminding you of it. The first is chapters 6 and 7. 6 and 7 are Rasadhyaya and Bhavadhyaya, in which he gives instructions regarding the presentation of each of the mental states and moods. That is Sangopangam, Angam. It is not a collective one. Every Anga, how the brows have to be done, how this have to be done, this is, part by part, Anga by Anga. That is in 6 and 7. The second is the 24th chapter called Samanya Vinaya. This is the process of homogenization, Samanikarana, to bring up totality of different units of acting. Here Bharata uses a wonderful simile. This is just like a fire branch. Alata Chakram. Alata Chakra means, our concept of Alata Chakra means, it's a fire, it's a stick, there is a fire in it. It's all right there. when you hurls it with such speed, you will see a circle there. You will see a circle there. So when you see the fan rolling there, it has 3 leaves. You can see the 3 leaves separately. But when it runs there, it creates a circle there. So in Bhavadhyaya, Rasadhyaya, he has taught you what the eyes have to do, what's Purivan do, what's your face do, what's your eyes do. Here in Samanya, like his Samani, he brings it together. And how all of them are brought together so as to create an illusion. So that is, they seeing us, you are creating an illusion among the actors that this is like that. Actually, the actor or the dancer cries or does it, an illusion like this Alata Chakra instead. And Bharata again, and this is the 24th chapter is the most important part. Because here he brings out everything to create this illusion of uniformity. All this making to a single unit. That's the Alata Chakra, the example is very telling us. And the last is the 26th chapter, which deals about Chitrabhinaya. I think these are all you know better, but I say this, to explain something more. The Natya Shastra tradition. So this is what Natya Shastra says about our imitation is there, our Bhavani Kirtana is there, then Rasa, it is here. The Natya Shastra tradition continued as the fountainhead of theatrical practices for over 1,000 years. Great playwrights like Kalidasa, Shudraka, Vishakadatta, Bhavudi, etc. and others strictly conform to the instructions of Bharata. We get numerous references regarding the theatrical practices of this age. Even so, we need not go into the details there. This is the fact about Bharata literature. By 19th century, something other happened here. Even the poetics, from the very beginning, dramaturgy and poetics were going through different routes. Kavya, poetics, Natya, theatre. They do not have anything in common. But in the 9th century, even poetics adopted the tenets of Natya Shastra. A great breakthrough in the history of poetics was the introduction of the doctrine of Dhvani, suggestion, by Anandavardhana in Dhvanyaloka in the 9th century. I am not going in detail to explain the Dhvani theory here. It will be a class on Dhvani. We have no time for it now. What Anandavardhana says is, poetry is that which is not expressed. We are teaching students, poetry teaching, we are students reading the waves. But this man says, poetry is that which is unsaid. What is said, it is nothing. Don't go for that. What is unsaid? That's important. Go for the unsaid. What is unsaid? What is suggested is most important. That is the theory of Dhvani in the 19th century, established for poetics. It's a big breakthrough. It opened infinite possibilities to the poets. A contemporary royal dramatist, we are coming to another point. We are leaving Bharata here for some time. A contemporary poet, Kulasekhara in Kerala in the 10th century, he is a contemporary of Abhinavagupta, was excited over the potential of this novel approach. He aspired to implement the concept of Dhvani to theatre. He was a Natya Shastra expert playwright, director and actor. There were celebrated Nadishastra Pandits, poets, scientists, actors and Mahabharata scholars in his court. He called them, this man, he is a very great man, adorable sometimes. He called them and discussed ways to invigorate the theatre. Because by 10th century, the theatre has almost disappeared in one way, because local theatres were coming up. So, because Sanskrit has lost its importance, so Sanskrit dramas are presented by Haridasana. So, importance slowly went to the local theatres there. He called them and discussed the ways to invigorate the theatre. His main question was this to his scholars. We know the story, what is going to be presented there on stage today. We know that. He wrote a drama on Subhadra Dhananjaya, and the discussion was based on it. We know that Arjuna and Subhadra will come together and they will get married and they will live happily together. Then, what draws you to the theatre? You know it, what is going to happen? Arjuna will marry Subhadra, and so then what are you going to the theatre for? He said, it is not the what we inquire on stage. It is, will they get married? Bharata was very much conscious about that, because Artha Pragadis, etc. So, Karya, at the end, we should achieve the purpose. That is Haridas' concept. He said, it is not the what we inquire on stage. What means, what happens to them? It is not our concern. Then what is our concern? Our concern is how it does on stage. Today we saw Mattannur. He is playing here. Other day, if somebody tells you there is another Chenda Embellishment here, you will be going there. Okay? You will be going there. You will not miss it. Then what are you going it for? You want to know another artist of his caliber, how does he present the very same things? So, you know, see, Malajarida, there are people who see it 100 times. The 101st time, somebody tells you, no, today it is Nalajarida. Are you coming? You never say, no, I am not coming, I have seen it. Instead you ask, who is Nala this day? It is our so-and-so. Yes, I am coming. So what you expect on stage is not what happens, but how it happens. This is the crux of the problem with regard to our new aesthetics. So he told his friends, we have to find out a new way, different from the conventional, to satisfy the audience. A new theory expounded in Kashmir for poetry, if applied, that is the Dhvani theory, if applied to theatre, will provide enormous chances for improvisation. Let us try the aesthetics of Dhvani in theatre. Now we come to the third part of my paper, Dhvani. We have tasted it, Dhvani, then imagination and imitation. He said, Dhvani, you have to introduce it to the stage. He then put on the roles. He is a wonderful man. Because his friends, they were not convinced. How is it possible here? Then he put on the roles of all the characters to illustrate the new mode of presentation he had in mind. An elderly scholar of Natya Shastra recorded them. This performance text is known as Vyangya Vyakya. Vyangya means implied meaning. Vyakya, that is interpreting the implied sense in a dramatic text. The implied sense. So now let us look into it, what exactly he plans there. Authors leave many things hidden in their text. The actor has to discover what is in brackets and share it with the audience. He gives an example there in Subhadra Dhananjaya in the opening story. Then the Vidusha comes here. Vidusha pretends to be very hungry and all that, He says, Bhagavantaha Mahasheha Bhiksham Datta, give us Bhiksha, alms, pretends to be very hungry and all that. Now, after enacting it, he, as the next step, he tells them, I am not hungry, nor I have come here to get something to eat. Bhiksha is a feminine gender in Sanskrit. I mean a kanyaka. Bhiksha, so give us Bhiksha. What is the thing here? Arjuna is in love with, Subhadra. But Arjuna's elder brother, Balarama, has promised her to Duryodhana. So Arjuna has come here. We want to get her and we want to take her stealthily because we cannot do it in the open. So I am asking for Bhiksha means Bhiksha is a Kanyaka. This he has to bring out by these words. That is, the poet has used the word Bhiksha to suggest the Kanyaka, Subhadra. This meaning we want to get. So he has to explain. That is the hidden meaning, what he says. The actor does not have a text to communicate this hidden meaning. He depends on his imagination, how to present it. Manodharma Abhinaya. All our, in Kathakali, Kudiyatam, etc., dance, we have Manodharma Abhinaya. It is extra textual presentations are there. Kulashekara as a director allows a free hand to his actors. For the first time, actors are liberated from the control of the text. Talented among the actors indulge for long, imaginative acting. That's it. So I will give an example from Kalidasa. You know, Kalidasa's Malavikagnutram is a very textbook for all dance students. The first and second acts of Malavikagnutram. There Haradatta and Ganadasa, they are presenting the dance itself. Now our Malavika is presenting the dance on the stage. You know the story, you know the sloga, Angaihi Andar Nihita Vachanaihi Sujita Samyak Arthaha. The artha is that she is in love with the king, but she cannot express it in the open. And the king also cannot declare it in the open. Then what did she do? Angaihi Andarnihita Vajanaihi Sujita Samyagarthaha. Her intention, her love was Sujitaha. by the Angaihi. So this is the meaning hidden in the story, hidden in the text. But now, while presenting this, Malavika can explain what is the artha. This is my love towards you. She can present it according to her manodharma. Kalidasa beautifully illustrated this concept of acting in Malavika's dance in Malavika Agnimitra. You know the story, and you can once again, after going home, you can once again read that sloga, Angair Angar Nihida Vajaneihi. Now, by this time, the gap between Drishya and Shravya, I told you they were in two streams. Drishya was separate, Shravya was separate. The gap between the two has narrowed down to a great extent. Dhvani and Rasa became tools for relish of both. It is interesting to note. So, Dhvani, Rasa, etc. became common theories for both the Drishya and Shravya. So, Dhvani became for Drishya also. Then there was some interesting controversies here. See, actually this happened when our Abhinava Gupta wrote commentaries for Dhvani, that is poetics, Dhunya Loga Lojana, and he himself did it for Natya Shastra, Abhinava Bharati. So these two streams came together, they mingled. Now Dhvani, Rasa, both became a common, a common heritage for both. Now there are some complaints there are some points here. Abhinava Gupta's guru said, Abhinava Gupta's guru was there, he said, Prayogatvam anapanne kavye na aswada sambhavaha. Bhattadauda is his guru, Abhinava Gupta's guru. He took the stand that kavye na rasaswadaha. There is no rasa in kavya. There is rasa in kavya only when it is presented on stage. Prayogatvam anaranne kavye na rasaswadaha. That is his reason. But now Abhinava Gupta was in a very difficult situation. His guru is telling that there is no rasa in kavya. He is going to comment Dhunya Loga Lojana and Abhinava Bharati. So he tried to bring a compromise. Abhinava Gupta tried to bring a compromise. According to him, kavyebi natyayamane yavarasaha. There can be rasa in poetry also, but it should be natyayamana. It should be in effect a natya, natyayamana. That means he uses the word in kavya pratyaksha sakshakara kalpe kavye. When you read a kavya, read a poetry, if what is described here, there becomes pratyaksha in your manasa eyes. That means while reading it, if you see it in your eyes, there it can be rasa. So this is the compromise between two. That Abhinava Gupta sold it there, that's it. It's very interestingly. So I will tell you another example. Kumari Sambhava, you know it. So Parvati's marriage. The Saptarshis had come there. Their Saptarshis were discussing the marriage proposals for. So it is a very dramatic situation there. The Saptarshis are there. They are talking to Himalaya about the marriage of Parvati. Mena was behind there. Then what was Parvati doing? You have to remember, Parvati was doing penance to get Shiva and all that, you know. Now the marriage is being discussed there. What was he doing? What was she doing? Kalidasa has written one of the most beautiful lines here. Perhaps you may be remembering here. Evam vadini devarshau. When the Saptarshis were discussing like this, Parvati Parshve Piduratho Mukhi. Parvati stood by the side of her father. A bit back, you know. By the back side of her father. Parshve Piduratho Mukhi. And what she should do? Leela Kamala Patrani. Leela Kamala is there. The petals of the lotus in her hands. Ganayamasa Parvati. She was counting the petals of the Kamala in her eyes, the lotus in her eyes. Evam vadini devarshau parshve piduraho atho mukhi leela Kamala patrani ganayamasa Parvati. Now, Abhinav Gupta is asking whether this is poetry or this is drama. That's it. You can see in your eyes even the petals, the lotus petals. Parvati's face you can see. You can see, we need not say that this is Lajja. We cannot explain it, what it is. What I was telling you was, this poetry, when it is natyayamana, there is rasa. And even say natya, it is natya when it is poetry, when it is poetics. That's a point. What a wonderful visual image. This is our topic today, the visual image that a poetry presents when you read, a dance presents when you see it. One, I will about dance, a special reference to dance by Kulasekara, that also I will tell you. In this context, Kulasekara's treatment of dance is interesting. Bharata delighted the audience using the types of abhinaya. I told you about abhinaya, 4 kinds of abhinaya and all that. But using 4 kinds of abhinaya, that is clear gestures, direct expressions, etc. Kulasekara used dance which made the emotions powerful. Then he felt the former as prosaic and the latter as poetic. The abhinaya part in dance, it is giving all kinds of, all abhinayas, it is complete. So according to Bharata, it's all right, perfectly all right. What he says in Natya Shastra, what he says in the 4th chapter and in other parts, it's all right. But what he says is, Kulasekara says is, it is prosaic. What Bharata said is prosaic. the aesthetic charm rests on the poetic way of acting. Bharata gave the grammar of acting. Kulasekara added poetry to it. Bhava, when used in the instrumental case, that is bhavena, he coins a new word, that is bhava, that is most supreme, most important. This is not the other bhava, which we are telling. I have given three different meanings for bhava now. The first was our bhava rasa is there. The second was Kalidasa's use of bhava, that is creation was there. Here for dance, it is another bhava. What he says is, what should a dancer do? First, let me tell you one thing more. For him, Kulasekara, there are two kinds of audience among the audience. One is Prekshaka among the audience. The Prekshaka is a scholar who has studied all the 18 Shastras and perfect. That is told. Then there is the Nana Loka. The Nana Loka means the ordinary people, the common people. Both these people are coming here to see the dance, so see the performance. For how and when the Prekshaka will be satisfied, I will give his own words. Viveka bhajoho drishtyoho prekshakan bhavenaiva bodhayan Trivartyuchilirasya dibasya puradasthishtet Yavat prekshaka mugam. Prekshaka is the scholars. Prekshaka mugam udashru vigasati. Prekshakarida mukam ananda ashrikal niranya nilkkuka. Udashru vigasati. Adilani bhavena ennu parayunnathu. Vigasati tavat prayoktavya. Aduvare abhinayikkanam. It's a highly technical, these things. I am not going to the details. Nirtasya angi, the soul of nirta is bhava, and its angas, the brightness of lamp, unity of body, movements, beauty, beautiful costumes, dexterity of usage, attractive form, music, etc., etc. Here, what he says is that, to come to her, ihatu suchito bhavaha drishtaveva pradishtitaha. It is the eyes of the dancer. Drishtaveva pradishtitaha. Saha paschad angaihi vibhavyade. That is spread out to the Angiga Abhinayas. That should be the form of acting to satisfy the, let us say, the Prakshakas. I am not going to the details of it, it's not our topic. Now, let us come. It's not time here. Is it time now? So, immediately I will close it up. Dear friends, till now we were discussing the theoretical foundation and the evolution of the concept of Dhvani in Indian theatre over a period of 1,000 years. We started from Bharata's Rasa, passed over to Anandavardhana's Dhvani in poetry, and at the end came to the concept of Dhvani in theatre in Vingivekya. Now let us come to the practicals as to how Dhvani works on stage. The suggested sense can be in three ways: vastu, dhvani, rasa, etc. I am not going to the examples too much. Examples are there. The one, not only drama, there are examples from drama there. Not only drama, but dance also follow the same path. The dhvani Only one example. The story of the hunchback. Hunchback, Kubja in Bhagavata. It is very famous. We know it, the story we know it. Is famous. A dance choreography on this mythical character. It is a new choreography. Is interesting. Kubja is the slave of Kamsa, engaged to prepare sandal paste to the court. She was an object of ridicule to everybody. Kubja herself was an object of ridicule to everybody. One day, Lord Krishna came on her way. He asked for a little bit of chandana paste. She applied tilak on his forehead. Out of compassion, he cured her of her deformity. This is the story. Based on the story, a dance choreography based on the story and the interpretation of the choreographer. We have many Kubjas in our midst. She represents the women of India in common. The hump on her back is caused by millennia of oppression, carrying the burden of heavy injustice. Men who are kind and considerate with a sense of understanding can relieve her of the bondage. Such an interpretation to a mythical story, when presented on stage, mythical story, mythical characters make the presentations relevant to the contemporary life. I am not going to more details here. Here, to sum up, appreciation of Natya in Bharata was simple. It was more or less an emotional experience. Rasa to Bharata was an emotional experience. Things have changed as time went on. Today, it is an intellectual exercise also. Aswadana today is not a mere emotional experience. Instead, it is an intellectual experience also that is relevant to the contemporary life. There is no meaning in retelling stories to make it relevant to us. Natya should stimulate our intellectual pursuits also. Ananda Dhvani Parambara. This is not only a visual here. This is not only a spectacle here. From there, Ananda Dhvani Parambara makes things new as the trees in the spring season. Theatre everywhere is imitative. Indian theatre also is imitative, but its focus is on imagination. This is the secret of relevance of Dhvani in theatre. Thank you.
On a very informative session, sir. May I now invite Director Srimati Revathi Ramachandran to kindly come up onto the dais to felicitate Dr. K.G.Paulose.
sir, that was very insightful. Like it traced from the Natya Shastra and then went on to Ananda Ratna's work and then Kulashekara's work, and what the whole feature of imagination, how you concluded with that theatre is imitative but it focuses on imagination. Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful scholarly lecture here. I don't know how many of you would have got what the gist of it is, but if you just note it down, as you grow older, probably you can understand when you get into more theoretical aspects. But thank you so much for being with us in spite of your very busy schedule, sir. Namaskaram.
Thank you, Akka. Before we commence with the next session, we'll now have a short 10 minutes break. Our third topic for today will be Embellishment of Natya through Inner Harmony by Shri Mavin Khoo. Shri Mavin Khoo is an international dance artist of remarkable versatility. He is a renowned solo classical Bharatanatyam dancer as well as a contemporary dancer with a classical ballet background. Shri Mavin Khoo's status as one of Bharatanatyam's most exciting modern innovators demonstrates the global reach of the tradition as well as the allure of his personal style. He was a direct disciple of the legendary maestro Guru Sri Adyar K. Lakshmanan. Known for his distinctive artistry and virtuosity, Shri Mavin Khoo tours the world as one of a few solo male Bharatanatyam dancers with global recognition. He has worked with many other leading dancers from contemporary world and works as a creative associate with the Akram Khan Company. He works closely with Sri Akram Khan as a repetitor, working on the coaching and staging of his work. May I now invite Shri Mavin Khoo onto the dais, please.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvikhnam Kurume Sarvakaryeshu sarvada Om Durgaye Namah Om Durgaye Hari Om. First of all, I want to start by saying how humbling it is to be here today. My relationship with Kalakshetra was from the time I was a 10-year-old boy in the 80s when Sir used to bring me to watch dance dramas, and my memory of all those great voices from Kamala Rani teacher to Periya Shada teacher, Balagopalan Sir, of course Janardhan Sir is here, Chinna Shada teacher. It's so vivid and tangible in the space, and so it's very humbling to come back, although I've been very fortunate to have also danced here for the main festival and for Atte's birthday celebrations, but to come back to speak about process is something else, and to speak to a whole new generation of dancers is special and touching. So thank you for having me. it's important that I start off by saying truly that I am not an academic scholar. And in terms of that kind of scholarship, there are so many others who are much more wise and much more invested in the element of academia. But what I bring with me is by now a substantial amount of years where there has been an investment into building and developing a kind of process in how I work, and how my absolute obsession and childlike madness and childlike love for dance has anchored a particular spine by which today I stand before you carrying so much fascination still for dance. I keep saying I feel still like a 10-year-old boy when I confront this relationship with dance. And I am so grateful to my teachers and my guru for having instilled the beauty of remaining a child with curiosity in relation to the art. I think that's the biggest thing that my guru gave me, truly. The topic that I was given is Embellishment of Natya through inner harmony. By the way, I'm going to be supported by lovely Janani here, so thank you. So if you can go to the next clip. And I think the first thing I want to do is ensure that really what I'm talking about here is a very personal perspective, whereby the element of, as I said, process is crucial. Also, I just want to say that I was very clear that I was not going to dance really today, because I feel that it's too easy for me just to do a kacheri, whereas I think the opportunity for me to really discuss process and to do a lecture is important. So I'm really going to try to stay true to that. So process is the key, and when I talk about process, the notion of process and embodied process. What do I mean by embodied process? A process whereby one lives by those ideas, one takes the time, one invests in it with no sense of what the answer is going to be, so that over a period of time, that process is tangible through lived experiences of exploring it. And as I said, that it is not an academic discourse, it is a discourse based on practice and a lived experience. So that's important. The next slide, please. And in relation to the title, the embellishments of Natya through inner harmony. So that was quite challenging, because there's an ambiguity to that line and there's a specificity to that line. And so what I felt was really important was for me to dismantle 3 points of that line in order for us to understand the lens by which I'll be discussing it. So the 3 points are embellishment. What do we mean by embellishment first and foremost? What do we mean by Natya? That in itself is complex. And what do we mean by inner harmony? So through the lecture, I'm going to be really defining the lecture through these 3 fragments. The next, please, gentlemen. So, embellishment, if you look at Webster's dictionary, embellishment really is to make something beautiful by adding something to it. So one can say that it's essentially about nuance. One can say that a particular sangati in a musical phrase is an embellishment. One can say, talk about Sundari Griva through a physical aspect. But how I would like to approach it is the notion that embellishment or nuance really is something that reveals itself out of a particular commitment to an idea. A commitment to a particular manner in which one is deciding to sing that line, and therefore what reveals itself. Today, a few days ago, I went to listen to Sandeep Narayanan in Nardaka Sabha, and he did his Ragam Tanam in Shankarankutty. And what was so beautiful was that after many years, for all of us who know the raga structure so well, but when an artist is able to, through going in, reveal nuances that you didn't think about. So there's a revelation in that, and that embellishment is really about revealing possibilities. As I said, for me, if I stay true to the literal concept of embellishment, it's slightly problematic because it loses the depth of what the potentiality of that meaning is, and what the potentiality can actually reveal. Next, Janani, please. So this is complex. It's complex for me to talk about this on the Kalakshetra stage. But what is Natya? I was talking to Jayakumar yesterday, a dear friend of mine, and we were saying really for us, and I think it's important that there is the theoretical academic discourse or underpinning that is theoretical, but there has to be an element after a while where there is a personal relationship to the theory. Or not, it remains theory, right? And I always say theory is there to enable one over a period of time to use it as an offshoot to create and to be free, as opposed to frame you and cage you. So for me, from a personal perspective, if I talk of Natya, what is Natya to me? It is movement. And if I consider it as movement, then really it's not limited purely to dancing. It certainly is not limited to Bharatanatyam in itself. It is related to a particular sense of something that is happening. As I keep saying that in music there is movement. There's so much movement in music. So is there Natya in music in itself. And the fact that in today's world, and I come from a culture that is particularly guilty of this in the West, that we have come to a place where we segregate and divide the notions of dance, music, theatre into three separate categories is problematic in our context. Because really in our context, what we are talking about is the artist who develops or delivers artistry that encompasses dance, music and theatre. So, like I always say, the term choreography is a very complex word, because really choreography is a word that comes out of a very Western construct in terms of how it serves a particular theatrical composition. But in our world, it's hard to understand how to place this notion of choreography when we're dealing with ideas of manodharmam, when we're dealing with ideas of nuances that take out of a particular structure. So choreography, for example, is a problematic word that sits within a very specific dance framework. So therefore, the discourse in not limiting this discourse to purely Bharatanatyam, whilst I will be using Bharatanatyam because that is my world, but as a discourse, I would like us to dismantle it beyond the specificity of that genre. Next, please. So, inner harmony. So this is a process that I think I've really been working quite actively for over the last 8 years. And I talk, when I teach particularly actually, I work on this a lot, about what we consider the internal Shruti. I cannot emphasize enough, and I'm sure many of the teachers here would agree with me, how complex it is to truly be in tune musically and truly be in tune with an internal holding of pitch in the body. And I think dance is a fascinating element because it's actually very easy to cheat it because it is demonstrative, right? So you can show, and particularly as classical dancers, because we are taught to show movement and show movement in its exterior manner from inside, but exteriorly, it's easy to show it without actually going back to where the root is. So one of the things that I work very much, and just said that Sapas, can you just sing the Shruti of Sapasa again? So I work very much, as you sing it again. From the center, I really. So this becomes the pull of the torso that I hold, that then sustains itself through, I try to sustain itself through everything that moves in the space. So the body is committing to the notion of Shruti throughout the movement, which of course it will come and go. It's impossible to dance a Varnam and sustain this throughout. But the point is that the focus of energy is in trying to sustain it, right? So this concept of the internal pitch for me has been something that I've been working on for quite some time now. And then of course, what is interesting is when the Shruti, then the internal Shruti is then facilitated with the Laya. So then you have this beautiful juxtaposition of the two happening. And the physical attuning to a kind of harmonized coming together. The coming together for me therefore sits within what I refer to as the central axis. So this midpoint, in Western contemporary dance we call it the meridian line. The central axis is really the vibration of where the Shruti is the most potent, I would say. Yeah. I also want to say that the nature of my thinking and my discourse, and I'm not going to apologize for it, is very much in relationship to my own values and ideas that have been defined by many years of my body committing to values and ideas defined by this notion of classicism. And I'm saying classicism because it is a very complex word, as many of us know today, and it carries with it a lot of baggage and a lot of socio-historical, economic, political context that can flood one's relationship with it. But for me to be able to understand my relationship with my dance, it is incredibly important that I have a sense of truth in terms of what my embodied experience is. And of course my experience is, number one, having grown up within a particular Bani that is framed by the notions of classicism in its body, and as a classical ballet dancer. It's not something I can take out when I reflect on notions of Shruti or Laya or Manodharmam. There is an element of me that always remains embodied in this classicism that I have in me for many years. Yeah? So, going into this concept of the internal Shruti, I further want to define it by three elements, which are the aesthetic, gender, and transcendence. So I have three beautiful dancers who will be supporting me, Ranjit, Vichna, and Pallavi. I'm sure most of you know Ranjit, Vichna, and Pallavi is a student of mine. Ranjit, Vichna? Yeah. So when we talk about the aesthetic, just stand in Samam, please. I mean, I think Samam is the most difficult position ever, because really really understanding the central point, but not even that. Even when we do Tattadavu in Samam, the concept of what the gaze is doing in that Sama position in itself, right? And it is so active because actually just in this position, the activity of trying to find the purest alignment in itself is so multidimensional in the activity that happens. As I've got older and as I've coached a lot, for me I think one of the most important elements of technique, dancing technique, is the understanding of the central axis, both here but spatially, and the concept of movement that comes back to the central axis. Right? So understanding where the center is, where the shift of weight happens, where they're coming back from here as the central axis becomes a very important element. So then, if I'm doing even something as simple as to tangada tatta dinna, tangada tatta dinna, tangada tatta dinna didite. 5, 6, 7, and tang, ge, ta, ta, din, na, and tang, shoot, ta, ta, din, na, tang, ge, ta, ta, din, na, go back, ge, ta, ta, to the left and tang, ge, and tang, ge, shoot, ta, din, na, ta, tang, ge, ta, ta, din, na, tang, ge, ta, ta, din. Thank you. So that's a very external perspective. Now if we do it once more, go slowly. From here, as she goes, ensure that now the unfolding of the third, from the ekal, the third finger that draws the line that leads the eye, so you're finding that central axis. Now as it shifts to the side, because it's going, because it's going to the side, you're understanding where the central axis is, which means that what is super active is the opposite side. Then from here, center it. Now she shifts into the axis shifts, so this side becomes active. From the center move, go to the pinker. So understanding where the center is and shift back. Why I'm saying it, we know all of this, but when we dance, it's so easy for us to just do the step. So the question is, what do we do in practice? What are we actually looking for in practice? And how rigorous are we to actually do that, search that in practice? Right? Once more. 5, 6, 7, and tang, ge, de, ta, ta, din, center it, tang, shoot, ta, ta, din, tang, ge, de, ta, ta, din, na, tang, ge, center, and tang, draw it, ta, din, na, tang, ge, de, ta, din, and tang, ge, de, ta, ta, din, na, and tang, ge, de, ta. Thank you. So when I work with that central axis, how then, I'm going to ask Pallavi, if you don't mind, to just give an example. There's a beautiful composition of Lakshman Sir's, which is a Alaripo in Tisha Jati Dhruva Talam. So his calculation of it is in 22 counts that you then split into 2. But on the right is the Kandam, on the left is the Rupakam. But so it's, as I said, it's easy to do it. Just do it, right? Ta, tai, tai, ta, 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 tai, yum, ta, ta. I can just go. Tai, tai, ta, 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 tai, yum, ta, ta. But if I really want to interrogate it, where's the fascination point? The midpoint that crosses between each time. So that tak, and it's a moment that the audience won't even see actually. Tak, tak, kitta, tak, kitta, tang, gede, tat, dhinna, tang, gede, tat, center goes tam. That rigor, and I say that rigor because to persist with that idea, right, takes it out of a place where one is just performative for the sake of being performative, number one. Number two, it's an essential part of process that one commits to with no assumption that audience will even see what you're doing. But there's a level of depth because you are searching for that they can feel. So this notion of performativity is a complex word. The notion of showing in order for it to be seen is something that I think is an interesting question to ask. Pallavi, do you mind just doing that Alaripo? Come. Shiva, okay? 1, 2, 3, and ta, tai, tai, ta, 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 tai, tai, ta, ta, get ta, 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 tai, tai, ta, 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 tai, tai, ta, ta, get ta, 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 Just do that imitation. 1, 2, 3, and tam dita dei da dei tam dita dei da dei tam dita dei da dei dita dei da dei tam 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 dita dei da dei ta da jum dari da jaga dari da dadi kita tom da dadi kita tom da dadi kita tom da. So what is interesting in that composition of Sir's, there's a point where the crossover happens and the tate 5, 6, 7 and tam dita te da te 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 ta. Okay, so that cross phrasing of that takka takkitta takka takkitta tangeda tatta dinna tangeda tatta dinna takka takkitta takka takkitta tangeda tatta dinna. That point of the crossover is where I want to bring in the next element, which is that notion of gender. So can I go to the next one? Yes. When we talk about, and this is a personal process that I'm working with a lot, I will use that element of the construct of Ardhanari. We talk of the central act, we talk of Ardhanari so much in terms of its binaries, right? We think right side male, left side female. But for me the fascinating point has always been the midpoint. Because the midpoint is where the merging and departure happens. So really it's the point that is non-definable, right? It's the point where it merges and it departs and everything in between that. This everything in between that allows for that concept of, for me, a pitch that is constantly in navigation. So just like what happened just now, that takka takkitta takka takkita tangeda tatta dinna tangeda tatta dinna takka takkitta takka takkita tangeda tatta, it settles down again, and that element of it being framed. When we work from this idea, and I'm just going to say that it's not just here, it's here, to the fingers, there, yeah, to the midpoint, there. Can I try? Champaya Gaure. So this is just something that I've been working on. It's not finished or set in any way. I'm really sharing with you two sketches of Shankaracharya's Champaya Gaure. It's really sketches, so how I'm working with it musically and everything is not finished. It won't finish in Talam for now. They are all ideas that are coming. But I just want to share with you how, therefore, this concept of that central axis becomes then a pivotal in my interrogation of how I look at Sahitya, for example, in this context. The Nadu Namakriyala. Two Avartanam Sin.
Champeya Gaurartha Sharirakayi Karpura Gaurartha Sharirakaya Champeya Gaurartha Karpura Gaurartha Sharirakaya Dhamlakayi cha Jadadaraya Dhamlakayi cha Jadadaraya Shivaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya.
Find the Shruti. Okay, we do it once more. Yeah, so that central axis that I'm talking about and the rigor of persisting it now allows for an unfolding of what I refer to, we're talking about embellishment, the notion of visual imagery that's going to support the idea beyond just the step. So, for example, from the central axis, as I take the charm pair from here, immediately what my visual image wants to do is imagine Shiva looking from this side so that my ribs start to articulate his shape. When I think of Shiva as the many ribs over there. So from here, and then it settles, shifts into the central axis, it shifts back to her. One of the most beautiful images for me is the folding of the skin as one sits. So one feels her skin fold in that hip here. So just that, takes a lot of time in terms of investigating. Then I'm working on this. Then the raga structure becomes absolutely the king for me. So what do I mean by that? The nature of the raga in itself gives me a sense of space here. If I'm dancing Mohamana or Bhairavi or something like this, I feel the groundedness, right? But this allows me, it's a reference I use, is like as if I'm dancing on Japanese rice paper, so that everything has that. Everything has that. So it just adds, one stays within, of course my body is very hybrid in terms of all the information it has, but even with the three of them who are Bharatanatyam dancers, if one adds that element of responsibility onto how they move, it's very interesting to see what happens to the body within the specificity of the genre in itself. Yeah, once more. So and the Dhammila, make sure you, from here, Dhammila ka boom. Yeah, 1, 2 afternoons.
Champeya Gaurartha Sharirakaye Karpura Gaurartha Sharirakaye Champeya Gaurartha Sharirakaye Karpura Gaurartha Sharirakaye Dhammilakaye cha Jadadharaya Dhammilakaye cha Jadadharaya Namah Shivaya cha Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya cha Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya cha Namah Shivaya.
it once more. So now find that you've developed that. Now it's about the central axis. So every time you move, make sure that it is always from the central axis, from the central axis, from the central axis, so that that central spine becomes where movement comes. Am I making sense? All of this here, from here, make sure it's the central axis. Once more. And
Sampeya Gaurartha Sharirakaye Karpura Gaurartha Sharirakaya Sampeya Gaurartha Sharirakaye Karpura Gaurartha Sharirakaya Dhammilakaye cha Jadadharaya Dhammilakaye cha Jadadharaya Namah Shivaya cha Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya cha Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya cha Namah Shivaya.
Singing that piece, just the Namah Shivaya. So I say, when I was coaching the dancers, I was talking about how complex this point is, because the easy option, close your eyes, would be this, right? Naturally we would want to close our eyes into it, but actually if I'm really going into a space of deep meditation, it's where my every sense is totally open. It's totally open, and if I use a sense of visual imagery, I can see all the traffic and all the cars and all the chaos of the world just going around me, and I'm just in that moment. So I was very particular about them not closing their eyes, because I felt that it was important to interrogate the possibility for something much more complex in a state of being, rather than just by habit to close the eyes and perform a particular notion of bhakti, if that makes sense. Great. Can I see the duet version of this? So I've also worked on a version which is more what I would refer to as choreographic in its duet relationship. Why don't we start and then I'll just talk about it. Syria? Shiva, okay? 5, 6, 7, and. Once more. And.
Samaga sada samaga samaga sada saga Shivaya samaga sada Shivaya samaga sada saga maga sada samaga pada sa puja gada he magada
15 minutes, great. So here, what I work with is the central axis, the central axis. So the central axis, there are multiple central axes, right? And also the notion of not just the central axis, the two binaries, the merging point, but the points where they cross over the central axis onto the other side. So the ambiguity of those points as well. Once more, last time, make sure that you're really working together for the splits and the curves, so that the one really is connecting particularly the ribs with each other. Once more. And
samaga sada saga shivaya samaga sada shivaya samaga sada saga maga sada samaga pada sa puja gangada.
now it's seeing yourself, see someone else. So that's based on how I'm exploring this notion of the merging, the departure within the central axis. Can we shift it, Janani? So now this element, I'm not going to demonstrate because I can't do it, basically. And it's important for me to be very honest with that. The notion of transcendence for me is a very important element. At least for me, it is really the search that I'm looking for in a journey, that when I start a program, when I start a kacheri. And it's a state of being. So why I'm saying is, I think within our world, the notion of bhakti is a complex notion, because bhakti can't be performed. And there's a process to land there, when it's truly a space where there's a surrendering of sorts. There's a ritual process, there's a structure that enables you, if one looks at particularly ritual performance, there's a process of a ritual practice that happens in order to land in a place of transcendence. Definitely, we know in Kerala, for example, in Theyyam and all, there's a practice, right? Equally in Southeast Asia, in parts of North Malaysia, for example, or Indonesia, in terms of shamanistic practices, performances, there are really ritual processes that one has to do in order to get to a specific space. The best way, I think I would like to show you one video, because I can't, as I said, I can't land there immediately, but towards the end of a performance, it's a performance with Arun, with OS Arun that I did. I hope you can see with the lights. Let's try. Can we take the lights down a bit so that maybe we can see a bit more clearly? Okay, thanks. So, to finish off, I just want to share one very intimate story in relation to this notion of transcendence. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, I was in Lakshman Sir's house, 39 Fort Main Road, and one evening, Yamini Amma came for rehearsal with Sir. Sir was doing Natuangam for her. And I remember being so scared and watching from where the kitchen was. And she did a Varnam Sir's well-known composition, Yentanine Telupudura. She did it once, this was about 7 p.m. and then she did it the second time. She said, do it again. So he sang for her the second time. And then she said, do it again. So he sang for her the third time. She did the full Varnam 3 times. I remember this so clearly. And when she finished the third time, she said, okay, that's good. And he turned around and he said, you made me sing it for 3 times, now I want you to dance it one more time. So she did this Varnam 4 times in a row, full out. From 7, it was about 9:30 when she finished, 9:30, 9:45. Sir went in and her driver was waiting and he asked me to go in to get the tambura, to bring it in. So I went in very scared, I was like 12 years old. And I still have that picture so clearly in my head. She was sat against a pillow on the floor, drenched in sweat, her eyes closed, and there was a little moth that was going around, and the state was such peace after all that dancing. And I remember as a child going, that is moksha. It's not in the dance. The dancing was a process to land in that space after. And that has been something that I think has always stayed with me, that memory of Yamini Amma just sitting down after dancing for 4 hours like that, and the state that she landed in. And that's where, for me, that notion of inner harmony, that's really what one strives for. Thank you so much. The musicians, Dinu Venugopal, Shiva Prasad on Mridangam, TV Sukanya, and Ranjit, Vichna and Pallavi, and thank you, gentlemen.
That was indeed a fascinating and enthralling performance, sir. Thank you so much. And may I now request Shri Pakal Ramdas sir, Principal RDCFA, to felicitate Shri Mavin Khoo. That brings us to the end of the second day of the 5th National Seminar of Performing and Visual Arts, the Kala Samprekshana, the Art of Seeing Art 2022 Harmony Through Art. Tomorrow we have Shri P.S. Sri Raman talking to us about harmony in the facial expression of the Chora mural, followed by role of governing institutions of art in promoting culture by Shri Anish Rajan, which will be followed by Srimati Mala Ramadurai talking to us about fine arts in education, and Shri Hari Padman presenting Madhura Bhakti, to be one with divine, and finally Kumari Amrita Shri Balaji presenting dance and therapeutic exercises as a remedy for arthritis. Looking forward to see you all tomorrow. Namaskaram.